What happens when a heart full of compassion meets cruelty so cold? It seems unstoppable. Sometimes the smallest voice can shake the mightiest wrong. On a grand ranch, nestled under the blazing sun, lived a beautiful white mare named Starlight. Her coat shimmered, but her eyes held only fear. She belonged to a wealthy man, Mr. Maxwell, who cared nothing for her feelings. To him, she was just a machine meant to win races and fill his trophy room. Starlight trembled, not from the heat, but from the dread of what awaited her. Scars marked her silky hide, silent screams from the whips and branding irons Mr. Maxwell used to motivate her. Watching from the shadows, her young foal, Thunder, felt her terror as if it were his own tiny body shaking. Today was race day. Mr. Maxwell approached Starlight, his footsteps echoing like thunder. In his hand, he held a worn leather whip, molded perfectly to his cruel grip. He looked her over, coldly. "Today you will win," he murmured, his voice carrying a promise of pain. "I accept nothing less." Starlight lowered her head. The memory of her last, brutal defeat still haunted her dreams. Thunder took a small step forward, wanted to comfort her, but the raised whip made him flinch back. The truck came, gleaming like a golden chariot, but for Starlight, it felt like a ride to doom. Mr. Maxwell smiled for the cameras, hiding the darkness behind his eyes. Thunder watched until the dust settled, an unease settling in his young heart. Far away, on the other side of the dusty hills, a 6-year-old girl named Rosie woke up. Her stomach rumbled loudly. Hunger was a constant companion for Rosie, her mother Sarah, and her 2 little brothers. They lived in a small, crooked cabin that barely kept the wind out. "Mom, is there anything to eat?" Rosie asked, her voice holding more hope than she truly felt. Sarah looked up from a nearly empty pot, forcing a smile that didn't reach her tired eyes. "Just a little broth, my sweet. It has to last all day." Rosie nodded, understanding the weight of their situation. She put on her oversized sandals and announced, "I'm going to look for something, Mom. Maybe I'll find fallen fruit or someone who needs help." Sarah watched her eldest daughter go, her heart heavy with worry, but also immense pride. "Be careful, my warrior." Rosie walked the scorching road, her small feet burning through the thin soles. The first hour yielded only a few shriveled fruits, which she carefully placed in her torn bag. Her stomach growled louder, but she thought of her brothers and sisters at home. As the sun climbed higher, Rosie heard the thunderous sound of hooves. She turned and gasped. A small white pony, eyes wild with fear and mouth foaming, galloped toward her. It was Thunder. He skidded to a halt in front of her, breathing hard. For a moment, child and animal simply looked at each other. Rosie saw her own desperation, her own longing for help, reflected in his frightened eyes. "Hey, little guy," she whispered softly, slowly extending her hand. "What happened? Where's your mom?" Thunder let out a soft, pained whinny, almost like a cry for help. He sniffed her hand, trembling. Then he turned and trotted away a short distance before looking back. It was clear he wanted her to follow. Rosie looked toward home, then back at Thunder's pleading gaze. Something deep inside her made the choice for her. She followed him down a narrow, thorny path, ignoring the heat and the scratches. Thunder's anxious pace led her deeper into the wilderness. His low, pained whinnies tugged at her heart. Finally, he stopped. Before Rosie, a heartbreaking sight unfolded. Starlight, the magnificent mare, was trapped, her body tangled cruelly in sharp, barbed wire. Every small movement only cut her deeper. Blood trickled down her legs and neck. Her eyes, filled with pain and terror, locked onto Thunder. A flicker of relief passed through them when she saw her foal. "Oh, my goodness," Rosie whispered, her small hands flying to her mouth. "How did this happen?" She approached slowly, speaking in gentle, soothing tones, the way her mother comforted her siblings. Starlight watched her warily and used the kindness from humans. "It's okay, girl. I'm going to try to help you," Rosie murmured. Carefully, she reached for the wire. The moment her fingers touched the barbs, she understood the mare's agony. The wire was like a trap of razors. Her first attempt earned her a deep cut on her palm. She bit her lip to keep from crying out, tears of pain welling up, but she stayed focused. She couldn't scare Starlight more. "This is going to hurt a little," she explained gently. "But I promise I'll get you out." Starlight seemed to understand. She stood still, trembling, as Rosie worked with surprising determination for such a small child. Every movement was careful, as one wrong pull could hurt them both. Thunder stayed close, softly whinnying encouragement. After what felt like hours, but was only 20 minutes, Rosie managed to loosen one wire. Starlight sighed deeply, a sound of relief that made Rosie's heart soar. But more wires remained. Rosie's hands were already raw and bleeding. Then, the sound of an engine and heavy footsteps shattered the moment. Rosie's blood ran cold. Mr. Maxwell arrived like a storm cloud, his face twisted with rage. He had lost the race. The humiliation burned his chest, and now he needed someone to blame. "Where are you, you useless mare?" he shouted, fury echoing across the land. Rosie ducked behind Starlight, her heart pounding. Thunder stepped back, sensing the danger. When Mr. Maxwell saw the scene, his prize mare trapped and a dirty, bleeding little girl trying to help, his rage intensified. "What do you think you're doing with my property?" he roared, advancing on Rosie. I was just trying to help her," Rosie stammered, her voice shaking but holding a thread of determination. "She's hurt. She needs help." Montgomery laughed bitterly. "Help? That useless animal doesn't deserve help. She embarrassed me, made me look like a fool." He stepped closer, towering over the tiny girl. "This is the perfect punishment. She'll stay exactly where she is. No one takes her away from here. This is the fate she deserves for humiliating me." Rosie felt a chill, not for herself, but for Starlight. She looked up at the cruel man. "Wealth doesn't give you the right to be cruel," she said, her voice trembling but clear. "My mom always said what matters is how we treat those weaker than us." Mr. Maxwell scoffed. "Poor people's philosophy. In the real world, money makes the rules." He moved toward Starlight, but something incredible happened. The once submissive mare reared slightly and stepped back, positioning herself protectively. Thunder immediately stood beside her. They formed a united front. Mr. Maxwell was stunned. "What have you done to my animals? They've never disobeyed me." Rosie smiled slightly, a smile born from seeing justice flicker in the eyes of the oppressed. "Maybe they finally realized they don't have to be afraid of you. Maybe they found something stronger than your fear. That's ridiculous. They're just animals. They don't think, they don't feel, they don't decide anything. They're my property." He lunged forward again. Starlight did something that left everyone speechless. She stepped directly in front of Rosie and Thunder, shielding them. The victim, protecting the helper. Mr. Maxwell stopped, confusion flickering across his face. "This can't be happening. I control everything here." It was then that Rosie's neighbor, Mr. Stone, a man who had worked for Mr. Maxwell for 15 long years, pulled out his old phone. His hand shook slightly, but his voice was steady. "Hello, Sheriff's Department. This is Joseph Stone. I'd like to file a formal complaint of animal cruelty. I have photographs." Mr. Maxwell's face went pale. The approaching sirens filled the air. "You don't know what you've just done," he hissed. "I'm going to destroy you, Joseph Stone." Joseph's voice gained strength. "Maybe you're the one who's going to regret it. I've documented everything for 15 years. Every scar, every burn." Mr. Maxwell took a threatening step, but Starlight's loud, defiant whinny stopped him. She stood firm, protecting the humans who had shown her kindness. The sirens grew louder. Sheriff Miller stepped out of the patrol car, his expression serious. "We've received a report of animal cruelty. We need to investigate." Mr. Maxwell tried to deflect. "This is clearly an attempt at defamation by a disgruntled employee and a child who knows nothing." Joseph handed the sheriff a thick envelope. "Formal evidence, Sheriff." 15 years of documentation. The sheriff looked through the photos, his face darkening. Rosie approached. "Sheriff, I saw him leave Starlight trapped on purpose. He said it was punishment for losing." The sheriff examined Starlight's wounds. "These are recent. She injured herself trying to escape a poorly constructed fence." Mr. Maxwell lied quickly. "It was an accident. I was going to call the vet." "At 3 o'clock in the morning?" the sheriff questioned, looking at his watch. Before Mr. Maxwell could answer, Thunder walked up to the sheriff and gently nudged his hand. It was a gesture of pure trust that moved everyone present. An officer called out, running back with a blood-stained piece of wood from the fence. Strands of white mane caught in the barbs. "Sheriff, look at this. And these marks on the post. Hooves. Desperately trying to escape." Mr. Maxwell paled further. Joseph added more evidence. "He uses a chainsaw to terrorize them. Psychological trauma. Sheriff, I'll need you to come with us for questioning. We'll need to search your property." "This is absurd." Mr. Maxwell exploded. "You're believing the word of a resentful employee and an ignorant child against mine. We can and we will. Animal cruelty is a crime." Suddenly, more animals emerged from the shadows. Horses, cows, goats, dogs, all of them drawn by something they sensed. They formed a semicircle around Rosie, Joseph, and the officers, clearly avoiding Mr. Maxwell. "Look how afraid they are of him," Rosie said softly to the sheriff. "But not of us." Mr. Maxwell tried one last desperate threat. "Sheriff Miller, you're making a grave mistake. I have connections. If you're implying you can influence a police investigation, that's obstruction of justice." For the first time, Mr. Maxwell showed real fear. His hands trembled. Then, Starlight walked slowly towards him. She stopped directly in front of him and looked into his eyes. Instead of fear or aggression, she let out a loud, clear whinny, a sound of pure defiance. Thunder joined her. Soon, all the animals echoed the call. The sound woke neighbors. Mrs. Rodriguez, an elderly woman who had lived next door for decades, arrived first. "Finally," she murmured, looking at Rosie. "This brave child did what none of us adults had the courage to do." More neighbors arrived: Mr. Manuel, the veterinarian, Mrs. Rosa, the fruit seller. One by one, they shared stories they had kept silent about for years. Rosie's mother, Sarah, arrived, frantic with worry. "Lily, where have you been?" "Mom, I had to help Starlight." She was suffering. Sarah held her daughter tight, tears streaming down her face. "My brave warrior." The sheriff asked for witnesses. Hands began to rise. Stories of lashings, of forced labor, of torture poured out. "You're all crazy." Mr. Maxwell shouted, "You're inventing stories." But his voice was weak now. The power was draining from him. Thunder rested his head on Rosie's shoulder, a gesture of pure gratitude. Rosie felt tears of joy. Sheriff Miller arrested Mr. Maxwell. As he was led away, Starlight approached him. Mr. Maxwell tried to recoil. "Keep that animal away from me." But Starlight showed no aggression. She simply stood before him, lowering her head. There was no anger in her eyes, only deep sadness. A silent question. "Why?" Mr. Maxwell looked away, then back. For the first time, he truly saw the pain in her eyes. He began to cry. Not tears of self-pity, but of recognition. I didn't mean to. My father taught me. I thought it was normal." Joseph approached him gently. "It's never too late to change. But first, you must accept responsibility." Mrs. Rodriguez asked, "Richard, why?" "You had everything." "Because I was afraid. Afraid of losing. Afraid of not being respected. So I became cruel to appear strong." Mr. Manuel shook his head. "True strength is protecting the weak. This girl showed more strength in one day than you in your entire life." Rosie blushed under the attention. She didn't feel strong. She just felt like she had done what was right. 3 weeks later, Rosie sat on the porch of her family's new, donated home. Starlight and Thunder grazed peacefully in a small pasture at Joseph's new sanctuary. Mr. Stone had turned his modest ranch into a haven for rescued animals. Starlight had healed, her spirit soaring freely now. Thunder had grown confident and joyful. "Sheriff's here," her mother called. Sheriff Miller brought news. Mr. Maxwell was sentenced to 5 years in prison. He will also receive psychological help. Rosie nodded thoughtfully. Part of her felt relief. Another part, surprisingly, felt compassion. "The best news," the sheriff continued, "is that your story inspired new state animal protection laws. A special task force will be created." Joseph appeared with a folder. "Lily, how about becoming an official partner at the sanctuary? You can help take care of the animals every day after school." Rosie's eyes lit up. "Really? I'll get to see Starlight and Thunder every day." "Not just them. 5 more rescued animals arrived this week. And maybe we can create an educational program." 6 months later, Rosie, now 7, rode Starlight to the lush sanctuary fields. Her laughter rang out like music. Thunder galloped beside them, healthy and strong. The sanctuary now housed 43 rescued animals. Joseph was a respected figure. Rosie had become the youngest ambassador for animal rights in the country. Her story inspired children and adults nationwide. "Good afternoon, everyone." She greeted a group of visiting school children. "I'm Rosie Spencer, and this is Starlight, my best friend. She's the reason this place exists." She told her story, emphasizing courage, compassion, and perseverance. "The most important thing," she said, stroking Starlight's neck, "is that each of us can make a difference. It doesn't matter if you're small or young. When we do what's right, the world helps us." A girl asked timidly, "Weren't you scared?" "I was very scared," Rosie admitted. "But I learned that courage is not being afraid. Courage is doing what's right, even when we are afraid." As the sun set that day, painting the sky golden, Rosie rode with Starlight and Thunder. She reflected on her journey. From a hungry girl on a dusty road to a protector of the voiceless, she had discovered that even the smallest people can be great when they fight for those who cannot fight for themselves. If you were moved by Rosie's story, please hit the like button and subscribe for more tales of courage and compassion. Don't forget to leave a comment below and tell us, what would you have done if you were in Rosie's shoes? Moral lesson: true strength lies not in power or wealth, but in the courage to stand up for those who cannot stand up for themselves, no matter how small you might be.